Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Works Minister gives an update on that fire in Bimini.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, fire destroyed 2 Bahamas Powerlight engines on Bimini last night, plunging the tiny island into darkness. Though power supply has reportedly been fully restored, Jared Higgs tells us BPL officials and Bimini residents are at odds over the impact the fire will have on the island's already inconsistent power supply.
Now, Our News tried to access the facility to take a look at those badly burnt engines. However, we were getting no closer than the front gate, which is firmly locked. Now, Our News also ran into BPL CEO WHITNEY HEASTIE as we arrived on the island, and as he was leaving, he told us that power would be restored on the island by 1 o'clock today, and he couldn't say just how much that damage would cost the company.
So we have the capacity on the island to carry the customer base, so we're comfortable with the capacity we have right now for the existing load that we have on the island.
According to police, a fire broke out at BPL's Alistown power plant shortly before 9 Monday night, destroying 2 engines. Officers from Bimini Volunteer Fire Services, Resorts World Bimini, and the local community assisted in battling the blaze. Hastie says while 2 engines were damaged, additional resources on the island are expected to keep customers online.
Along with the trailer units we have on the outside of the building, we don't see a challenge there currently right now. Until we actually get things configured and started up, we won't know. But we're just trying to reconfigure the power grid right now to make sure we can take advantage of the remaining assets that's our operational at this time.
While Hastie insisted that things were under control and that power would be completely restored by midday, one Bimini resident confronted the CEO in the middle of our interview to let him know how things really are on the island.
It could have been disastrous last night, you know what I'm saying? So we need to get Bimini in order, you know, Bimini other than other than Nassau and Abaco, Bimini is third, you know, pulling in money for the public purse. So Bimini does not need to be treated like a stepchild any longer. We need to fix these problems, sir. We don't want any words anymore. We need to fix Bimini.
ANITA Harris says she feared for her son's safety when she heard about the fire.
Yeah, well, a few explosions. And then someone said, the BPL is on fire. Well, my son, my only child, works at BPL. So I started panicking. Because if you had seen that fire last night, that blaze, the explosion, it was just awful.
Now, another resident that we spoke with says he's a 17-year veteran of this very same power plant. He says the facility has issues that need to be resolved, and he also says that power turns off on the island nearly every single day.
We was gonna have power outage without that, because we've been having power outage even before the big load come down. Every night or every other night, the power was going off because of poor maintenance of the engines that they don't maintain these engines.
53-year-old LORRICK Roberts says he worked at the power plant for 17 years. Roberts and several other Bimini residents blasted the power plant, telling Our News that they've had to purchase their own backup power supplies.
I bought a Generac generator for the same reason. I got one. I bought it because after all the veterans retired, they gave them a package and they left. So you get a bunch of young people in there who don't even know the station.
Island administrator for Bimini and Cat Key, CLEOLA PINDER, says power was fully restored to the island by 10:30 on Tuesday. She also acknowledged that power has been spotty.
We've had a lot of inconsistencies with respect to the power. However, BPL has been great. They've always gotten us back on. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour, but we've always been able to get the power back on.
Our News understands that as of 2 p.m., power was off in parts of North Bimini. Residents say as Bimini develops and welcomes more outside visitors, the strain on its power supply will only increase. With 2 engines out of commission, BPL officials say it is unclear what the short, medium and long-term impact will be. Reporting for Our News from Alistown, Bimini, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, the fire at BPL's plant in Bimini has also prompted a response from the minister responsible for BPL, DESMOND Bannister, who this morning apologized to the people of Bimini for the inconvenience caused. Jasmine Brown has that.
Those new Wärtsilä engines were on full display this morning. However, the Works Minister did admit that the events in Bimini overnight put a damper on this morning's events. Moments into his speech, the Works Minister deviated from the topic of the press conference, saying he could not talk about the new engines for the Clifton Pear plant without first addressing the devastating impact of the Bimini fire.
Today ought to have been a day of uncompromised celebration. We're doing something historic that will be celebrated in the Bahamas for many decades. However, last night's fire in Bimini has put somewhat of a damper on events this morning, and accordingly I have a responsibility to address that first. I apologize to the people of Bimini for the inconveniences suffered during the night. That's our responsibility, and I assume responsibility for it.
In addition to taking responsibility, Bannister also insisted the damage was not as bad as initial reports suggested. He promised a thorough investigation into the cause.
The fire will be investigated thoroughly and independently.
The Works Minister says it's too early to say what caused the fire and how costly the damage is. However, he commended the 5 veteran staff members who worked throughout the night. Shifting his focus back to the Wärtsilä engines here in New Providence, Bannister says they will be transported from the port to Clifton Pear over the next 2 weeks to be installed over the next few months. Transportation of those engines was originally scheduled for last week. However, that was delayed. Officials say they do not expect the transportation delay to negatively impact their goal of having the generators installed and fully functioning by the end of the summer. Bannister says officials believe the installation of the engines is the answer to BPL's load shedding woes.
Once the engines are installed and commissioned, BPL will be in a position to offer reliable, stable power generation to New Providence, and it will be free. It will be able to free up resources to address ongoing issues on the family islands, such as Bimini.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Former police constable Patrick Taylor was charged in the magistrate's court today with unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor. It is alleged that sometime between February 1st, 2019 and March 21st, 2019, the 27-year-old had sexual intercourse with a 15-year-old girl. Taylor was not required to enter a plea. His attorney, Ian Cargill, requested that his client not be placed in general population at the Department of Corrections because he is a former officer. The magistrate said he would forward the concern to the commissioner and remanded the officer until July 12th when he will return for a VPI. Well, the Bahamas Department of Corrections is taking steps to address the decades-long problem of overcrowding. Jasmine Brown has more.
Commissioner Murphy was upfront about the desperate need for a new facility as he revealed those plans while he gave our news team a personal tour of the Bahamas Department of Corrections.
Overcrowding breeds any number of problems. If we could address that, then we will be able to address a number of other things.
Murphy says the facility, which will house about 700 inmates, is expected to be constructed at the rare grounds of the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services by the end of next year. He could not put a price tag on the facility, but he did say the goal is to address the prison's long-standing overcrowding issue.
We're seeking to have a new facility built to relieve the overcrowding that is in the maximum security. When normally you hear overcrowding, you think it's prison in general, but the overcrowding really is in the maximum and in the remand center.
According to Murphy, the new building will be a high-medium facility that will not be as intense as max, but not as relaxed as minimum security. He also revealed the new facility will be energy-saving and will feature toilets in the cells for inmates, bringing them in line with the international standards while improving the quality of incarceration.
We are seeking to foster all of the discipline that's supposed to be in place, all of the protocols that are supposed to be in place to ensure that the organization run as a professional correctional facility.
The prison currently has 1,776 inmates. According to the Institute for Criminal Policy Research, there were 1,322 inmates at the prison in 2010. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
A hotel union strike at this time would have a devastating impact on the country's hotel industry, according to Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar, who is not happy with the Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union's decision to hold a strike vote on Thursday.
I consider a strike the nuclear option. and we are a long way from that. So I would implore both parties, both the union and the employers, to get into a room and ensure that they come to an amicable solution. A strike at this time in the hotel industry would be devastating.
Hotel Union General Secretary Sheila Burrows said they burned a proposal sent by the Bahamas Hotel and Restaurant Employers Association, which represents Atlantis, The Reef, The Cove, Harborside Resort, Melia Nassau Beach, British Colonial Hilton, Lifeford Key Club, Ocean Club, and Town Hotel. She listed mandated gratuity amounts as well as holiday benefits and increased severity of breaches as issues in that proposal. Labor Minister Dion Folk said he emphasizes with the union.
I am fully sympathetic and understandable from the position of the hotel union, but it is a process that we are engaged with. The government sees this as a top priority to bring a settlement.
Charter pilots are calling for increased security at the airport after thieves hit at least 2 aircraft in the past week, getting away with expensive equipment.
The units fit right in there, and basically you can't come in here and just pull it out. You need a special type of tool to pull this out of the aircraft.
Captain Theodore Thompson is the accountable manager for Blessings Aviation Charter. He said when he got to work last week to check on one of their Piper Aztec aircraft that was under maintenance, he got quite the shock. The GPS Garmin 530 was gone, a loss of nearly $40,000.
It's in high demand, so, basically economic supply and demand, so, and as I said, only thing I'm asking for is, for guys to be more vigilant on the air side and to have more protection, because this could happen to anyone.
The stolen part is an all-in-one GPS navigation and communication tool, quite important when flying a plane. According to Thompson, security cameras picked up the theft in progress last Thursday night, just after 8 p.m. That footage, he says, shows a man breaking into another plane and taking the same type of equipment. Thompson explains you'd have to be pretty familiar with the type of aircraft to steal that part, but it wouldn't take a lot of time.
5 to 10 minutes. And as I told you guys before, and on the interview, you have to know what you're doing to pull it out. See this right here? I can't take my hand and pull this out right now.
Within minutes of that interview, we were asked to leave the premises by authority. Thompson says he's not pointing any fingers, but he's simply asking for 24-hour security in areas where airplanes are parked for holding as well as maintenance.
It's very sad because, the airport is supposed to be a highly secured area. We are faced with paying taxes and fees to that airport authority. And, we are not pointing any fingers, but we're just asking for clarity and a resolution, because it happened once, it happened twice, the same night, it could happen again. These guys just basically just jumped the fence, and jumped in the aircraft and took what they wanted to take. It could have been worse.
Calls to the Bahamas Civil Aviation Authority and the Airport Authority were not returned up to news time. Still to come, will there be another VAT hike in tomorrow's budget communication? Stay tuned.